G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff Ukraine War Update for the 31st of October. The month is over. No real end in sight, though we keep getting promises of a good time. The reality is grim. And this is despite the admission yesterday that the Ukrainian casualties are far higher than previously admitted to, with Ukraine dropping the ball and admitting over 2 million Ukrainians have died since 2014. Is anybody surprised that Ukraine has lied? Of course, the excuses are, we don't want to help them breakers. And then they disappear the stories. But that's not the only thing they're altering, are they? They're altering the truth before our very eyes. The final command of the party is to deny what you see and hear, and that the party is always right. And yet, so many of you just sit there and passively take it. Until our politicians hear our voices, they are not going to do anything. They're afraid of us. Otherwise, they wouldn't be suppressing and trying to silence us. I think it was Clownfish who talked today about how YouTube is trying to get rid of small creators. I've been telling you all that for years. I get hacked, lose all my old videos. Most of them are still on Rumble. A few on BitChute. I've been saying for years how YouTube is grinding small channels with these ridiculous monetization rules, claiming that it's quality control. No, it's to pressure you to leave, to quit, to up and leave. If they don't like you, they flood your channel with ads so that people will tune out. If they like you, they up the algorithms to make sure that you're promoted to millions, not hundreds. They claim there's no artificial finger on the weight. That's not true. They kill your momentum, and then you have to beg the audience for help, and you just don't see it, do you? They make you come off as desperate. People don't like desperate. No matter what you do, you know, everybody these days are still asking you to like, share, and subscribe, because I think, I forget which creator video it was a while back, saying that if you don't ask, the majority won't click. Which is weird, right? But if the truth doesn't get out about the war, the lies take hold. Look at New York, the lies take hold. We've been warning people for decades. Instead, they put their head in the sand and say, God's plan. No matter how many times you tell people, God only helps those who help themselves. But I guess the devil's got his running shoes on, right? But before I continue, I'm your host, the author, David Applegate, author of the books The Boyhood Cade, Power Games, Into the Elsebound, and The Erotic Tales from the Empire. Part 1's out now, Part 2's coming soon. Thank you to all those who support the channel. You can support the channel through the links in my link tree. Now, I swear, yesterday they reported this building as an office building on one of the mainstream media channels. I said in yesterday's video as an office building, a power plant. Now it's suddenly a dormitory. Where's the beds? Those windows blow out, but where's the beds? There's a couple of there's a sofa cushion, broken desk, some air conditions. That's not a dorm. How many dorms, have bricked up windows, eh? Just let it sink in for a moment, and we move on to the usual round of propaganda, which means absolutely nothing. It's just all noise. The only real thing is Russia launched a barrage of missiles and drones at Ukraine's energy infrastructure. And then they add, of course, but other targets, forcing nationwide power shutdowns. Geez, if Russia's killing civilians, what, only 7? All that. Again, they lie. These pro-Ukrainian sites, they all just so desperate. Okay, Poland's closed its border to Belarus after claiming drones entered their airspace, even though they arrested a Ukrainian spy for flying drones. It's crazy. Okay, Germans arrested an alleged Russian spy. Okay, moving on. Viktor Orban is trying to get the peace talks restarted. Great. He's consistent. Russian senator has asked for Trump to negotiate instead of posing sanctions. You can ask, but I think what Trump has pointed out is he wants to see results. It's quid pro time, bro. It's like you can't keep asking for sanctions to be lifted if you do nothing to earn it. All right? It's like North Korea. Please be nice to us. And then turn on North Korea state television. You're the boogeyman. Boogeyman under every... Actually, North Korea is more afraid of China than they are of the United States. And have admitted that they don't even want a war with South Korea. So, it's about time we saw some new world leaders with maturity, I think. Trump can't just be a lone wolf anymore, Although we do have signs of some hope with Japan. We already see Thailand and Malaysia trying to be wishy-washy and change the deal mid-course. That ain't going to go well for you, bro. Of course, they're all doing it because of the US media and the baying wolves of political naysayers known as the Communist Party. You can't call them the Democrats anymore. They're the Communist Party, okay? The party of Indian communists, okay? Who get on a plane, come to America, claim American citizenship, run for government, and then start telling you how to live your life. The very thing they rebelled against under Gandhi for the British, against what the British were doing. So, fuck India, okay? Modi's a two-faced rat, okay? He just bought more Russian oil. So did China. They both, as soon as they left Trump's... They didn't even wait for Trump to be out of the room before And then, before their media's announcing new, only one Russian company said they're selling out of Europe. Offered to sell their holdings to Germany. To bow out of Europe. Wind up operations. But everybody else, no. They're all two-faced backstabbers. But I think Trump knows that, so I think Trump expected that. That's why he only announced that he would, not has, offered to lower sanctions. And of course, these idiots are going to find out over the week. Find out pretty quickly. You don't keep your word, then you're not going to get the nice things. You know what I mean? You're for the streets. I honestly. Modi and Xi, they're for the streets, There's no morality. There's no ethics. There's no honor. And they're going to find out the hard way very quickly. When you're standing on a pile of manure, your feet, you may think that your shit don't stink. But you know what happens when you stand on a pile of manure? That's right, you sink into it. And Trump is offering Putin and Xi, even Kim, ways out that most of the world would not do. Trump is offering to stop the collapse of half the world, even though Europe is sitting on the sidelines, rubbing their hands together. And they are. The WEF has already said they're waiting in the sidelines to take over after the European governments fail. Okay? Don't believe me? Look up Klaus Schwab. He is looking to return to the WEF triumphant very soon and take over France and Italy very soon. They have driven our populations and our economies into the ground so that we will surrender to them everything. And you have been warned time and time again about the communists, about the socialists, and about the nihilist, about the homosexual, about all the other degenerates. Okay? Society can handle a little bit of degeneracy. It's an escape valve. But when you make it your prime lifestyle, when you don't give a flying hoot about anybody or anything but yourself, you're soon standing on a pile of manure. And I'm telling you right now, Ukraine is a pile of manure that has sacrificed its population since 91 to drugs, prostitution, forced labour, drug laundering, money laundering. And they've seen the level of hatred, that the left-wing politics of vitriol, constant criticism, incivility. Ukraine is a left-wing cesspool. It's not even it's on such shaky ground. It's had a toxic relationship with Russia since 1934. It's murdered its own civilians every decade since the 30s, up until the 90s. Even then, that's only a brief respite before they were back to fighting. This country, there's something fundamentally wrong. Now, if I was Trump, tell me if I'm wrong on this. Tell me what you think. Don't bark at me as if you know, but just have a think, right? So many people have not commented on my videos, and you can tell they haven't watched it because they're telling me about events that aren't in the video, okay? And can't be verified. Yesterday I had some clown telling me that, but Zelensky's still in office after 4 years. Wait a minute. 4 years. 22, March 23. So March 22 to 23 is 1 year. 23 to 24 is another year. 24 to 25 is 3 years and a bit. Zelensky's 3-year term is up. He failed to make peace as he promised. So, yeah, you are saying, after all this time, Zelensky's still in office. Yeah, but we didn't defeat Germany in 1939 when the war started. And you're measuring the war by, your what ifs. You're not looking at the actual goals of the war. So here's the thing. You don't want to reward Putin because he's aggression. But what about US aggression in Iraq? You can't be a freaking hypocrite. You have to come at the world with some consistency. So here's the thing. You split the difference between and basically oust Zelensky. That's it. Over. Gone. Europe has to give up its ambitions to keep acquiring more land, more taxpayers. Because they sell you out, right? They'll sell you out. The greedier they get, they'll sell you out. They'll go, 100 million Indians will mean we have 100 million more taxpayers. And all the greedy, selfish people in the nursing homes are going to go, yay, somebody pay our healthcare bills. Should have had children, you greedy, selfish cunts. Somebody's going to go, they couldn't do children. Always with the what ifs. You're never thinking about the big picture. You're always thinking about your selfish politics. But here's the difference. We split the difference in Ukraine. Because a neutral Ukraine benefits us more. We're not responsible for Ukraine. Let it collapse. Let it die. It doesn't want to live. It has no shame. It has no morals. It comes begging, cup in hand, asking for weapons all the time. That is not the hallmark of a good people. Okay? Friends have got to learn to say no. You all think back to high school. You always had that one friend who was always asking for money, always putting his hand in his pocket, never having anything. You always think, but I'm a good Christian. I'll give them money and I'll go to heaven because I'm so charitable. And you just find out you're being played for a mug. And the holier than now run around with their nose up and say, yeah, I'm a good charitable person. And then you meet them laying on life. They're always asking you to give to charity, you know? And they say, even if it hurts you, it's always better. They're always preaching. You know, they're always holier than thou. But when it comes to this war, where are they? Fundraising for Ukraine. Fundraising for a war. So you're not holy. You're a political animal. You're a greedy little parasite. I think we're all being lied to about Ukraine, and I keep digging. Hopefully one day they're going to expose themselves and people are going to say, oh shit. Because we all know, deep down, things are worse than they seem. Russia's goals seem to be pretty consistent. Maybe I go on too long. Maybe the majority have tuned out after the first 10 minutes. Russia always seems to hit Sumy. They always seem to have the fighting in the same few areas for the last few months. Though Kupiansk just renewed fighting. This wasn't there a short time ago. They renewed fighting in Kupiansk. That's because Zelensky's foreign minister told the reporters that they won't be allowed to reject Russia's offer, that you have to take our word for it, that there's no encirclement at Kupiansk, that we're winning. We'll get to that later. Just have to take our word for it. Now you may think there's no Russian troops from there to there, but yeah, how are they going to get across the icy waters? And they're under fire. Okay, they're in range of light, medium and heavy artillery all the way up to here. Russia controls the major bridge. And again, I think, where's it, down here somewhere? Let's go all the way down here, I think, before you get to the next bridge. And it's in Russian hands. Ukrainians also flooded this area to stop the Russian advance, so they cut their own escape route off. Now, in a lot of areas today, there is only some movement or no movement. By the looks of things, the map still has, the maps are dated, but it's only showing some movement. Still, Russia's made some movement in Kursk. They are going block to block, clearing out the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians refuse to surrender, so they are dying rather than living. This shows the level of idiocracy, the short-sightedness, or the deliberate malice of Zelensky and the left to kill Ukrainians. Death by Russian. There was a saying, death by Cossack. All the way back to the Napoleon, when told not to pursue. I think it was warned by the Austrians. But Napoleon, I know better. Now there's only smaller advances, but the Russians have advanced in the outskirts of Myriad, but not in Myriad. Taken some of the town here. Renewed fighting on the streets. The Russians have crossed the rail line, but not by much. Probably just a foray to set up lines to take this junction, secure this road, and so I'll need to worry about troops coming from this area. as they do, probably read the reports like I do, that Ukrainian have put thousands of troops into this area over the last few months. So they're not going to ignore that. Now, there's only, again, minor advances if you go through the entire map. Now, most of it's meaningless, but that little... you compare it. Look, Ukraine pushed the Russians back here, and some arsehole yesterday said, oh, but the Ukrainians pushed back. Yeah, one town. And then since then, how many other towns have fallen? Oh, but they still haven't taken that part. They're going to cut them off. Because it's a trap now. Okay? Whenever Russia loses a town, as I said they're going to push through here. You can see lots of little towns. But this is probably this is what they're doing. They're pushing through here. Cut these roads. They'll cut the supplies to this line. And this supplies up to here. And then they just go flank. Because instead of having a long line, right, they take this corner. They don't have to fight this entire line. They just go down it. They don't have to line up here and go forward. In spears. No, they spear from the side. This is all classic Alexander. Okay? Fire, and you defend on the front and you fight on the flank. We have, meaningless, drone and missile strikes again in Zaporozhye, and that's about it. We have the usual backwards and forwards. Ukraine hasn't even come near the Kursk Bridge. Again, no constant. Where's the constant attacks that Zelensky promised? What? There's a few. But Russia can answer with twice as many. And much harder. This is an unusual story. The Finnish National Conservative Party normally has not weighed in on the military conflict other than Russia will lose. But lately, this Freedom Alliance seems to be questioning the war. Believes that it's nothing but the Western assistants have done nothing. The window for negotiations has passed. The chance of is military success is limited. Yeah, I'm not saying that Ukraine now and again won't have a success. Like, we pushed back here. Or back in 22. Since 22, have you seen a major pushback? Right? There's only been 22. 2 offensives in 23, 1 in 24, small offensives in 25, and the offensives in 25 all have failed. They've only been short-term gains from anywhere from a week to a month. Now, here seems to be the longest. We'll see how much longer this lasts before the Russians just drop the hammer. And probably the only reason why they're doing it is just letting the troops wander in so that they're ready. And I'll show you what happens when the Russians take a town. It isn't pleasant. But according to this, Western aid will stop, and Zelensky will either prepare, would either negotiate, board the first plane to Russia, my guess is that, and I've said this often, it's his only survival. Okay? If he doesn't go to Russia and probably never come back, or eventually come back, he'll be seeking protection from the United States. I think the British will abandon him first. Keir Starmer is not a reliable partner. You've seen that. He barks about Palestine and genocide, but he ignores the Sudan. France, the same thing. They're all immoral. They have morality. They have no consistent policy. But, of course, to have a consistent policy, you have to have morality. The only morality the left have is, I'll make man beg. Now, Ukrainian opposition has slammed Ukrainian peace plan. Without the deals, the deal is on the table, but the leaks are leaking, and apparently the European peace plan put forward by Zelensky is a coalition of willing that will go to war and annihilate the Russian forces in Ukraine. And that his peace plan is to topple Putin. They call him the drug Führer. He's not the peacemaker. I'm Zelensky. I call for peace. Kill Putin and there will be peace. 5 minutes after Putin's death. Why's the sun coming up on the west? People are absolute morons when it comes to war. I say this politely, but I wish more people would watch the videos through instead of just cutting out after the first couple of minutes because they weren't entertained. Entertain me! Russia has to... Russia's put forward, you've got to recognise the liberated lands as Russians, but the wish list born of drug and delusions, these so-called peace agreements, yeah. Then it's what it is. They're trying to build a coalition of war. I've said it for a while now. All these stories about Ukraine is to manufacture consent. That's why they spread nihilism through Europe, so men don't want to defend Europe. Why? What are you defending? Overweight sour cows who hate you? Defend paying high taxes? Defend overpriced mediocre healthcare? Defend having your children beg for jobs while foreigners get given preference? Defend obviously rigged elections? What are they going to defend? Belgium's talking about wiping Moscow off the map. I don't think there's proper context. Okay, you can't walk that statement back and expect to be taken seriously. This man is a retard. He's the reason why most people can't stop saying retard. The left are absolute mask off. They want to destroy Russia for the crime of leaving communism. See, they need an enemy. It's easy when Russia was communist to be the enemy. They need an enemy so they could distract you from them destroying Europe so that the foreigners can buy it up and then they can sit in their little offices all day and be branch managers of the WEF and the UN and not have to worry about losing elections, because ultimately they're sore losers. They don't like democracy. Or they like the idea of them sitting around the table voting, because that gives them arguments and bitterness. But they don't like you, the plebs, having a vote, because you might do something horrible and vote for someone you like and not them. So that some grand old lady can sit around all day sipping tea and have some man in a suit come and say, "Oh, my lady, your stocks are up." This obsession with constant growth. Dollar signs go, brrr, money printers, you know. There's people, they're so hollow, so shallow, so empty. Millions, billions, trillions. They're like kids with the, Monopoly money. Ooh, look at me, I got lots of Monopoly money. And then they talk about inequality and all these other things. That's only to distract you. They don't mean it. They have no desire to fix it. They don't want you to own anything. You'll own nothing and eat the bugs. 'Cause taxes fix climate, you know. Moscow said it's arranged for foreign media to visit the front line where Kiev's troops are encircled, but Ukraine's foreign ministry says, do not accept. Don't go to the front line and report. Take our word for it. Don't trust any such proposals. Claiming, look at 2014. In 2014, Ukrainian forces were encircled. They refused to lay down their arms, and they were killed. The Ukrainians suffered heavy casualties. They rejected the offer to evacuate, leaving their weapons behind. Instead, they took heavy casualties while attempting to break out. How is that Russia's problem? That's your stupidity, mate. That's your stupidity. That's your arrogance. Just like Hitler at Stalingrad. Not 1 inch backwards. The Russians, when they tasted they almost got defeated, and several times. This whole idea that Stalin and Putin are one and the same, no. Putin has made sure, specific in the Russians, several times, public statements, that men were evacuated several times from many areas where he felt that if the situation, that they ceded land and changed tactics, all right? The initial invasion, they seized large swaths of land and were going to trade it for complete liberation of the Donbass. Just the Donbass, mind you, and recognition of Crimea. Ukraine wouldn't accept and then fought back, so the Russians withdrew to preserve forces and fighting fitness of their men for the coming winter and defend their lines. And instead, Zelensky threw wave after wave, and since then it's now come out that Zelensky, in 2 years, maybe 3, have cost Ukraine 2 million men. And they keep saying it's Putin and his wave tactics. Every confession, okay, every accusation by a liberal is a confession. Zelensky has been telling you he's been murdering Ukrainians in his fruitless offensives. But you haven't been listening. So people are dying because you won't pick up the phone and tell politicians, you lost my vote, mate. You're not going to news conferences and asking, do you support Ukraine? And then yelling out, you support the murder of Ukrainians. You don't have my vote. Would you you don't protect our borders anywhere near. Right? Ukraine is protecting its borders with lethal force. You won't do that in the West, anywhere else in the West. Instead, you're told to drop your borders. Tear down those fences. Let the foreigners come in and take over. Because they want it more. They want it more, says the fat overlay. Says these immature people. See, they don't want to confront. They want to revel in their emotions because they're immature. Maturity means they have to grow up, take responsibility, admit their faults. No. They want to be They want to be little girls and treated like precious teapots. Don't you dare sully them while they go off if your name's Tyrone and let you do anything and everything to them and then have you be the stepdaddy. Here's a $5 for my OnlyFans. Here's a link to my OnlyFans. Because I'm only allowed to object. You can't objectify me. I objectify myself. So I'm empowered. I can show everybody my VJ. Yeah, it's like, congratulations. You're a bitch. And you wonder why Europe doesn't want to get off its ass. Because you offer nothing. At least there's still some men in Europe. But we're seeing a renaissance where men are finally waking up and going, we're the prize. We mature. We mature like fine wine and cheese, whereas they turn into sourdough and vinegar. You know, they don't even cheese. No, yeah, they turn into moldy cheese. You know, they turn into top poison. Moldy cheese and vinegar. They have to, by 30, they're already caking so much makeup on their face they look like a Barbie doll. Men are way more productive. Companies are actually firing women for being unproductive. Right? An entire office, I forget what it was, one of these big game companies recently fired 4,000 female employees. They had entire divisions only full of women and hadn't produced a game in years. They produced fancy artwork. They produced, these little game slices showing off. No gameplay. No game plans, nothing. Fancy campaigns. Spent years building, this immaculate jungle. I think it was Ubisoft. This immaculate jungle for a game that came out years ago. They were still tinkering with a game that already came out, claiming to be creating extra content, Nothing of value for this entire studio. 4,000 employees. All because of some Canadian law or some French law, forget which one it was, on equity in hiring. But the reality was the company has less than 400 something men in the studio to start with, and they ended up with 4,000 women, most of the men gone. Right? I think it was Far Cry 3 or something. 420 men produced Far Cry 3. Later to replace by something like 4,000 women, and all they could do was pretty up the jungle for an upcoming remaster that may never be now released. Or if it's released, nobody can run it because it's for bloody high-end art machines, It runs like a dog. A sick dog with all its legs broken. But you want to know what's wrong with the world? It's feminism. It's political opposition and the media always barking constant criticism. And when you're told that it's nothing but noise, nothing but distraction, somehow you let it rule your life instead of, what would have, at least in Britain, thousands of people are coming out to reform rallies and telling these politicians, no, you didn't have my vote, I didn't vote for you, I don't know anybody who voted for you, and I ain't voting for you, and they're loudly and clearly proclaiming that tens of thousands people proudly proclaiming they voted reform. And now they can't hide it. Because people realise the only way to win elections now is to come out in large numbers saying out loud and out proud that they did not vote for Labor. And you watch as more and more areas do this, you'll see more and more of these phony, fake, installed politicians gone. A peace summit. Remember when the world used to be on edge, hoping for peace summits? Now we have possibilities of peace summits. And where's Europe? Trying to rally for war. And the only reason why Russia's not showing up is because the United States won't throw its European allies to the wolves and say, you go to war, we're not going to defend you, you know? We're not going to defend your expansionism. NATO's not there to be expansionist. It's not there for Finland to get its revenge for losing the Winter War, because they have to make sure their Wikipedia entries show what glorious Finland is like. Because that's what you care about, glory. There's no glory in the blood-soaked mud. As I've often said, I only got in this to write better war stories. And you might say, but Dave, your title's The Erotic Tales. Everything has a purpose, okay? These stories have a purpose. At least one reviewer got it right. I thanked her for her wonderful review and said, very few people get it. She was also one of the few picked up that Cade was, spoiler alert, Cade's a demonically possessed entity. But he also talks to powerful beings. Well, Russia's FSB has arrested a Ukrainian agent for plotting a railway bridge bombing. Again, they're getting better and better at detecting. Every day, Ukraine. This shows you what would happen if Russia every day took a town. You wonder how they do it. It's what they do. They announce as they slowly approach, you see the evacuations. And then, on the outskirts of town, on the northern side of town, where the Ukrainian bunkers are, see, look, they know where everything is. Just hit it with massive blows a road. There, see, under the road there, the supply depot under the bridge blows up. There's rocket forces, by the way, firing off there. See, look at what it looks like in the distance. They just light it up. Right. And the Ukrainians, they're just sitting there. Next thing they know, they just hear woof, 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 and then massive explosions. And that's it. Within a few hours, the Russians walk into the town and clean up what's left. Thousands are dying every day just so Zelensky could sit there in his office and collect $340,000 a year, which is 56. Compare that to 5,600 that the average Ukrainian gets, a stipend. The Ukraine is controlled now by a Google app. Ukrainians just wait for their call up, waiting to be sent to the slaughter, and they willingly go because they have no life. No wife, no life. And those who have a wife, she gets, the only thing she cares about is whether or not she gets to be they're lining up in Kiev to be on OnlyFans and get there, or find some European soldier to latch onto. Ukrainians are dead man walking. But no matter how many times you're warned, it's like pissing in the wetsuit, I guess. Might make you feel good, but nobody cares or pays attention. And ultimately, I'm not going to stop. Some of you are waking up. Some of you, at least a few hundred of you, come back regularly on other channels. YouTube seems to be dead on arrival most days. Rumble starting to die. You know, I don't know why. You know, at least with X, sometimes view count goes up. So there's at least some people who are still searching for the truth. You could keep telling yourself politics, that the Democrats or, all these different socialists are all just, Zamundami or Adam Schiff or Schumer. They're just for the people. They're not. They're for themselves. They're probably hopped up on drugs. They're always for the people. That horrible shrill voice. Oh my God. Bernie Sanders. Why is that man still alive? He should be in prison for fraud many times over. Most of these European leaders belong in jail for fraud. France laughs off political corruption. Wasn't long ago that France protested, but the French army decided, nah, I'll sit on my hands. I don't want to get involved. And then the French police gave up. Because Macron brought in some mercenaries from Portugal. Where'd they get the money for that? The Indians sold you up the river, bro, for their own power. Once they're finished with you, you're just a disposable tissue to them. They don't care about you. And then the only thing you can do is come back at me and say, but Donald Trump don't care. How do you know that? When you can't even tell that your own union leaders are selling you out because they're looking at the numbers and going, 330,000 Americans? No, 330,000 Americans belong to our union? Yeah, our international branch. Oh, we can bring in 50 million Indians and sign them all up. They don't care about you. They just care about numbers. They have no love, no loyalty, no morality. They've just thrown out the olds, like they're all, you may laugh, but at least the Chinese are honest and said they threw out morality and all the other olds as feudalism. All those people who voted for ASC, I wish they suffered the consequences of their action. But they're the first to run away, like little bitches, when the communists start rounding people up. Or they're ready to put the boots on and start, and all the people bash the fash. That's exactly, you are the fash. Ukraine, if the Ukrainian army had any backbone, they would have marched on Kiev long ago. Instead, they sit there, smoking their dope, waiting for the Russians to blow them away because they have nothing to live for. Because the majority of the world just sits there having no morality. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. You can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree, description below, or in my profile. The darkest days are always before the dawn. Soon, hopefully, we'll have some... Gosh, Viktor Orban, I really hope he makes a breakthrough. I really hope somebody gets through to Trump and just says, look, there's cracks everywhere. Just put it on both sides, put Zelensky in his place, and this thing, in a few months, can put it in our rears and start sweeping all the riffraff out of Europe, the parasites of Paris, and Keir Starmer and all these. Because without illegals, it's the same with Democrats. Without illegals, they're going to lose 19 seats without illegals. That's why they're panicking. They don't care about you. They don't care about 40 million Americans. They're not Americans, they're illegals. Okay? 40 million people living off you, the taxpayer, refusing to work, refusing to go home. Those who keep saying it's your Christian duty are a bunch of Satanists lining their pockets. Same with this war. All these people who want you to care about this war, I just want you to care about life and put an end to it. Bye for now.